So, yang and yin go together. But through not seeing this, the whole of our life is, as I said, geared to the thought that we might be able to make the yang side win. And so, in every sort of human enterprise, we are trying to have white without black. When you talk about improving the world, you are meaning, presumably, that you want it more white than black, or whichever one you call the good one, if you think the black is the good. We think, could we get rid of the other one? Now, as you know, in all matters of practical living, it never works. So, it grows, you worry, because you found out that you didn't get yang without yin. You got a new yang, a bigger yang, instead of the former little one you have, but you got a big yin with it. People who speak of having right without its correlative wrong do not understand the basic principles of the universe. One might just as well speak of having yang without yin, and such people must be either knaves or fools. Of course, how would we know we were wise unless there were knaves and fools? But here it is, you see. You cannot beat the game. You can have the temporary illusion of winning, but by compensation you will ever so often have the temporary illusion of losing.
Hey there, travelers. My name's Kai, and welcome to the Misery Likes Company live stream. First video simulcast live stream as well. As usual, I'm joined by my co-host, Mike.
Everyone.
Mike is not in studio. As you can see, if you go over to YouTube, you can search for Kai's Things on YouTube and find the MLC Livestream. And you can see me in the studio. Hi, all those. Waving at the camera. You can view the chat, and as we go through articles and breaks and whatever, you can follow along on the video side of that. So that was a bit of a rush to get all of that done. I rushed out tonight to get some apocalyptic video footage, and we can view that later, of my local Whole Foods store. It is an interesting situation, given their restock methods and their resupply times and the overall situation of the world as we sit in it presently. So, give me a moment to breathe here, I suppose. What was your day like, Mike?
Had everybody on mute there for a second, just sharing the show out to the socials and whatnot. It was probably a little similar. I went to the store a couple times. I went to Albertsons, mostly to observe, but also to kind of see what was available. It seems like at this point everyone's caught on, and there's a lot of very new preppers in the community now, and so that's good. I've got most of the supplies I think I need. Who knows? I hope that we can re-up. But what I'll tell everyone out there that's listening, my trip to Albertsons, talked to one of the managers there, and she says that the warehouse is having shortages as well, so that there likely won't be shipments of certain things. I didn't find out exactly what, but if it's happening there at Albertsons, it's likely happening at most of the places. I know that they're reducing their hours, and so they're closing earlier now. I don't know if Whole Foods was the same way. Is that where I think Chris Kai was at Whole Foods? Today.
Yeah.
So we'll get to see a little bit of the kind of the moneyed class kind of clear out the shelves. But it's happening all around. It's not just Vegas. I think it's important to remember it's likely happening all around. And here in Vegas, I watched a couple videos earlier today from a couple different ammo supply stores and gun shops, and they're out of ammo. So everyone's kind of getting their last minute top up on the ammo, and it looks like people are a little more prepared now. There's still a lot of people out there that have normalcy bias, and if you're out there kind of thinking this will just blow over, the effect on the economy to this point has been so massive that this will not just blow over. And I've got some stories from my neighbor who talked to my the office here at the apartment complex, and so we'll kind of look forward to get into it. I got a lot to say today, and it's likely not all about the virus. Of course, we'll have some news headlines, and we'll have some other very interesting things coming up.
Yeah, I'll wait a little later into the show to throw the video up and let everybody see that. There's no real audio track. I stripped the audio because there's no point. But yeah, I've been visiting my local Whole Foods on a basically daily basis, not to shop, but to enjoy the circus. And I'm familiar with their supply line. And I knew today was going to be, as I said, basically apocalyptic. And it was. It was extraordinary walking into that store tonight. It's been a rough day for me to get started. I would much rather just be laying on the couch right now watching like another binge episode of Dimension 20. If anybody's familiar, shout out to Dimension 20. It's a D&D campaign run by Brennan Lee Mulligan of College Humor, and they're all former College Humor employees now, since they laid everybody off except Brennan. But really good D&D campaigns to watch, really fun from people who understand comedy and role playing and that sort of thing. So really fun to binge. But yeah, it finally rolled around to dinner time, and then shit, if I want this footage, I'm gonna have to drag my ass out to Whole Foods, and I've said on stream before that I have I know a bunch of people there, and it is the staff. Yesterday, was it yesterday? Sunday, Saturday? Yeah, it would have been yesterday. The staff was laughing their asses off. Tonight, they had the look of somebody who'd been through some shit. And that was, it was definitely new for them. They cleaned them out. They fucking cleaned them out. And by they, I mean middle class, mostly white Americans. Because the fact of the matter is here's the piece of advice. If you want to find groceries right now, go to a Hispanic or Asian market. They still have stuff on the shelf. I mentioned that aside to one of my produce guys, and he immediately just looked at me. He's like, how'd you know? I said, because Hispanics and Asians and blacks don't freak out over this sort of thing like white people do. And since I live in a, slightly suburban area of town, that's generally the demographic that shops there. Sort of bougie white people. And they panic easily. And no rhyme or reason either. That's the truly hilarious part to the entire story, is that things like fresh raspberries, gone. Dry cereal, still, by the way, still tonight, about 50% of the cereal's still on the shelf, Mike. So, they cleaned out stuff that, makes sense. Freezer, meat, that sort of stuff. But they were cleaning out fresh produce that will be dead in a day. It'll be, gone within 3 days sort of situation. Meanwhile, they're leaving dried goods on the shelf. They got the staples, rice, beans, pasta, that sort of stuff. They got a lot of shit. It's some interesting footage to walk through, but I feel for the retail staff of America right now. They are, because they're in a position where they're, beholden to large corporate interests or douchebag managers, and by and large, they're not being allowed out. They have to maintain their post, as it were. Whole Foods ain't laying people off. McDonald's ain't laying people off. There've been some, but the ones that are really going to have a rough time of it, they're still required to come into work. They had one of my guys out there doing busy work, like literally just making cardboard boxes. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to Welcome. We're just sharing post-apocalypse stories, basically. One of my guys at Whole Foods, he, if you've ever seen the produce stands, they have like cardboard boxes that are supposed to look like stacked produce boxes underneath the shelves, And they make those boxes specifically for that. Those are just like advertising and marketing boxes that Whole Foods has printed up. And he's got to go out there and change them. And they're like, well, now's a good time to change out the boxes. So they've got him out there doing just busy work. And that's pretty much the state of things right now, is busy work. Guys, we're doing a first time ever simulcast on YouTube. If you search for Kai's Things, Kais Things on YouTube, you will find the MLC Livestream, and you can see me, my ever so pretty face in the camera. You can follow along and chat, and when we do video or articles, you can see them on the screen as well. So yeah, what was it? I mean, you've got the driver situation. Have people completely lost their mind yet?
Yeah, it's somewhat of a tragedy. There's a lot of Uber drivers in the same position as me, where if you're not out there driving, you're not making money, but you got to balance that with the how contagious this virus is, and you're kind of stuck in the cab of a car, for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes with the same person. And so I limit the pickups at the airport and try to mitigate the potential, but yeah, so we're out there. I like to get the temperature of the people. I love getting out there and talking mixing it up with everyone and trying to see what everyone's kind of thinking. Haven't been driving in the last day, and it's funny because things are progressing so fast that even in one day things can change. I think we saw that with the grocery stores. It was almost overnight.
Yeah, that was.
So yeah, but the people that I did talk to seem like they're pretty well calm about the situation, and so it's hard to get a read. It's hard to get a read whether they're kind of just trying to put on a brave face and or what. But I was at the store today, and the guy behind the register, I said, "How you doing?" He didn't look too good, and he was breathing kind of hard, and I thought, oh man, this guy, what's he got? But he says he's going through a little panic attack, and I don't know, if it's a direct result from the from the whole COVID thing or what, but he was in pretty bad shape. So I did the best I could to lighten the mood and let him know he'll get through it, and got what I needed and got out of there. But this is going to be a big struggle moving forward. I don't think people. What I think is people underestimate. I think that's because they don't really not too many people have a head on their shoulders. It's worth kind of thinking about things and working things out themselves. They need someone to kind of tell them kind of put the math together, and that kind of leaves people at a deficit because they aren't prepared, and people not being prepared lead to empty grocery stores, and empty grocery stores not being prepared for a run like that leads to empty warehouses, and empty warehouses lead to farmers who need obviously need to produce more. And right now apparently a lot of the cornfields are still flooded, and there's snow, and there was already kind of a shortage of production from previous year. So a lot of people are talking about a food shortage, and I think that's worth talking about. You have to hope the essentials will still be around, but how much of it, and the food supply is kind of the next thing after a quarantine and martial law. That's the next big thing we got to worry about. So at least be aware of.
So this is Mike and I chat on a regular basis, but this is an interesting thing to note. Coming out of this, so Friday was the big rush. Basically, it snapped off, for us at least, on Friday. On Saturday, the aftermath was visible. And what happened was I went in Saturday and spoke to, some managers and supervisors I know at my local Whole Foods, and they confirmed that doesn't matter what day you pick, be it Thanksgiving, Christmas, Memorial Day, take any of their biggest days of the year for sales, and they demolished it on Saturday. They barely make $80,000 They make about $80,000 on a typical holiday push. So, days leading up to Christmas, days leading up to, Thanksgiving, that sort of thing, the store usually pulls in about $80,000. On Friday, when things snapped off in the afternoon, they made $234,000, by far the record sales day for their store in the history of the store. They'll never beat it. They sincerely do not think they'll ever touch that number. And so, yeah, it's bad for the supply line. It's bad for a lot of stuff, but the fact of the matter is that it's really good for sales. And I mean, they're having trouble. Like, they didn't meet their normal sales numbers today because there was nothing on the shelves, but they sold out in one day for all intents and purposes. They sold the store out in a single day. And for somebody like a large retailer like Whole Foods, that's an impressive feat. And, you may, the consumer looks at it as, holy shit. The supervisors, the managers, the regional managers, the higher ups, they're looking at it going, fuck yeah, our sales figures are through the roof this quarter. I'm getting bonuses. So it was certainly interesting to find out $234,000 in a single day. And they've never topped 80,000.
Well, stick measures territory. I think this is all leading to a certain conclusion, so to speak. A certain crescendo. I think we're gonna kind of be able to suss out what direction this thing's going. We should be able to buy now. There's a lot of clues. There's a lot of trends that you can follow. So kind of not just blanket conspiracy, but we need to look at all the the plethora of possibilities and logical conclusions, and just kind of being reasoned and logical about it. But right now, it does seem that everyone has gotten the rumor that who knows who started, but there's a rumor that quarantine will start Monday, nationwide quarantine, and the next step is the medical martial law, and who knows how long before that takes place. There's going to be restrictions on movement, and I think it could be for quite a while, not just for a week or two. So,
well, Mike and I have a common acquaintance, is a longtime friend of Mike's. I wouldn't put him up as a friend. I'd put him up as an acquaintance. And I'll just use him as we'll call him S for the purposes of broadcast. And he is on the far extreme for these sorts of things. Let's just call it World War III, and, that'll be that position. And I'm on the other side of that, basically saying, yeah, no, that's the appropriate reaction. I don't disagree that it's certainly a situation that can be seized upon by authoritarian measures and that sort of thing. And, it's rife for abuse, but that is the sort of thing that needs to happen in that sort of situation. And unfortunately, we've seen more often than not. And I mean, if you browse any sort of social media from today and look at drivers, bartenders, servers, look at everybody's accounts and see what they're saying, people are out fucking partying. And that's, that's the sort of thing that can spike a case count. And our ICUs, I don't know about where you live, but here in the Las Vegas Valley, our ICUs are about 5 to 10% under capacity at all times. They're basically full most of the time. If they have a huge push on them, forget it. There's no resources there. They can't cope with any amount of spike in their cases. And I mean, we could of course address this decades ago, but as Carlin always said, who's got time for solutions, right? So I do think that if people aren't going to control themselves to a certain degree, and since we're seeing people get stabbed in the fucking neck over toilet paper, and, did you see the guy today, yesterday? Today. I believe it was earlier today. It could have been yesterday. here in the Las Vegas Valley, some dude, 9 hours ago, dude showed up to a Walmart, outside the Walmart with a hazmat suit and a sprayer, like a garden sprayer, and was spraying people with clear liquid. 13 people got hit with it. He went in the store and sprayed produce and product. Nobody knows what's in it. I mean, it's probably water or disinfectant, and this moron thinks he's, it's a prank, bro, or he thinks he's doing something good or other. It doesn't fucking matter. This dude thought it was cool to go into a public space and start spraying people with an unknown substance. And, luckily Metro nabbed him. Somebody went outside the store and followed him out and got the license plate number. So they found him, tracked his ass down, and threw him in the fucking clink because you're insane. It's stupid. I'm surprised he didn't get shot, quite frankly. When I saw that headline, I was like, ooh, he didn't get beat the fuck up or shot? Wow. He's count himself lucky because, quite frankly, given the situation and the panic level people have hit, some random dude spraying you with an unknown liquid while you're at Walmart, we have a fair amount of people carrying weapons in this state. That easily could have ended very differently as a story. And so, this sort of situation brings out some of the, let's call it weirdos and strange behavior out of people. People who would otherwise behave normally start acting foolish. And that's what we're seeing in the grocery stores, is people behaving foolishly. And, as the pressure ramps up, they're just going to start acting more and more insane. And this is a product of capitalism, by the way. I mean, if you go into these stores and look at some of these shelves and see, this is every scare tactic Fox News has ever used for a socialist nation. Like, this is what they show you when they mention Venezuela or something. And meanwhile, it's the exact same thing. A little bit of stress on the system causes a run on the market. People feel that stress in the system. They feel the shortage in the market, and they start buying more than they should. That causes a further shortage in the market. And the next thing you know, you have a runaway process where people are buying, what was it, 17,000 bottles of hand sanitizer that guy had purchased and was selling them for like $70 a pop on Amazon. That's a natural byproduct of capitalism. And so, capitalism brings out the greed. It brings out the worst in people. And we used to have to propagandize this sort of thing. There's all sorts of posters that you can find, World War II posters. There's a fairly infamous Canadian one about good Canadians don't hoard food. And, that sort of thing. These sorts of situations can bring out the worst in people if they do not maintain a level head. And as we've seen evidenced in our society, our system is not designed to or set up or ready for this level of pressure on it. And the people certainly are not ready for this level of panic. So it could go south very quickly if people don't get their shit together.
I talked to one of my neighbors today, and they went and talked to the office manager about, what's happening. And he basically said, what happens if I can't pay my rent? And her response was, well, we can't pay it for you. And basically, you're on your own. The management company that owns the property has not communicated effectively to their employees and their staff, is what it feels like to me. And she is protecting her job, which is sad state of affairs, because that's not going to work out too well. There's going to be a lot of people that can't pay their rent. This is impacting a ton of people. And where it goes from here, who knows? But, I can only imagine there's a quarantine, and she's calling up a locksmith, going around kicking people out of apartments every day. That's her new job.
Massachusetts has already halted all evictions.
It's the human thing to do at this point, for crying out loud. During a quarantine, you're going to make someone homeless. I mean, the lack of consideration. I don't even know the wording for it. It just how can you be so? It's compassion. How can you be so cruel? It's a quarantine. Everyone's getting sick. You can't pay your rent. Get out of here. It's a global pandemic. It's not even like it's a regional, like, oh, sorry, it just happened here and this is the way it would work. It's happening. No, this is a global. If her response is, well, we can't pay the rent for you, so you got to go, that kind of business, that's not going to work out. And I imagine there might even be a lawsuit involved. I don't know how that works.
Well,
but,
there's a method that was posted on Reddit for baiting them. Essentially, get them to agree in writing to let this month's rent slip for a promise of double next month. And that's an actionable offense. And so, that, or you organize your entire building, or get enough people within your apartment complex, condo complex, neighborhood, whatever. Get enough people together, and everybody get each other's back. So basically, it's unionizing renters and saying, hey, if they try and kick one of us out, everybody stops paying rent.
I can only imagine the madness of her thinking that, and it is, again, I think, a matter of her protecting her job, that she's concerned, but she should be taking a leadership role and saying, well, I'll contact my boss, because what's going to happen is, you're right, something like that, people will gather together and say, no more. This is not going to work. If the city council doesn't step in, or whoever, the governor, whoever steps in, someone needs to step in and take care of the situation, because it will become rowdy and people will get hurt. And I don't want to see anything like that happen. People need to begin thinking outside the box for solutions. And she's still thinking in this a very tiny, narrow-minded idea of you got to pay me or get out. And in a global pandemic, all rules are off. So go ahead. I might change the locks before her, so that way I know I can I can get in and out. I don't know, but it's pretty brutal, and I just think it's absolutely worth pointing out.
This is the sort of thing that you essentially. This is what Americans are bad at, getting each other's back in this sort of situation. And this is exactly the situation that you need to get each other's backs in. And so, this, like I said, that's what needs to happen, is you need to essentially unionize, you need to organize the neighborhood and be like, yeah, look, fuck it. You can threaten one of us, but all of us, or at least, a profitable majority, are going to come down hard on you on this one. And we're pretty bad at that. It's like, well, that's his problem, not mine. That's the general attitude that's taken in our society. And so, this is, okay, so how do I put this gently and without liability? Here's a historical fact for folks. One of the first things that Mao Zedong, the founder of Communist China, did when he and his party rose to power was execute all the landlords. And there was a reason for that. And what we're seeing in Mike's telling of that story is the reason. This is $1 billion company that owns that complex. We've looked it up before. Standard
management.
Yeah, we've looked them up before. They're not hurting. This is not a mom and pop organization where they have a mortgage to pay and they'll lose their shit as well. This is a multi-billion-dollar company that can write this off in their taxes. They can get a tax credit from it, and still they're refusing to give the most barest of consideration to their fellow human beings.
Yeah, the situation is pretty straightforward. Anyone who can pay should pay. Anyone who can't will work with you during these trying times. Not too bad, so sad. What locksmith do you think is going to come over during a quarantine pandemic? They might be sick. But what happens if the office manager gets sick and she can't pay her rent. Who do you think she's going to be asking for her job, saying, "Hey, can you pay me in advance?" I can't come to work, but I need a paycheck still. So what's really going to happen?
Yeah, no, it's a stupid move from a business perspective, at least, and just from a public relations. But I mean, Vegas is that sort of valley that we get away with so much evil shit in this valley that, like I said, Massachusetts has already put the kibosh on it. I forget who else has already started the process of halting those sorts of things. But I'm not surprised that it's gone that way here, honestly, and I'm not surprised that the manager. I wouldn't be surprised if she already has the email. Forget running it up the chain. Basically, she probably already got the email from her corporate overlords that no considerations will be given until we get a guarantee from the federal government that we can write all this off.
You know what? I bet you're right. And what a cold-hearted position to have to take. And she says, "Well, that's the job I have. Sorry, it's just doing my job." But that you picked that job. It's a job you didn't just kind of wake up one morning and start walking into the office and I'm the office manager now. You chose that. Is the job you want, and now you have it's going to be on her and her soul and her. There's going to be a pox on her family. For kicking people out during a quarantine pandemic, and all because some standard management company, who knows who's running that, who's making the decision, maybe a board member or 2 or 12 or however many they have, saying, yeah, here's the decision. And of course they're nowhere near getting kicked out of their mansions and their ivory towers, but let me tell you, if there's a bank run, they're going to be poor just like us, just like me, just like the rest of us. They're going to be poor. And that fall from that ivory tower is a lot bigger fall than where I gotta go. My bank account goes from $11 to zero. I can handle it.
There's already indications. This is anecdotal at most. But Reddit is fifth most visited website on the internet. There's a large Reddit community, and bank tellers and bank managers were in one thread talking, and they were already saying people are already running on the banks for cash. One woman came into their local branch and demanded $65,000 in cash. And they're like, we don't have that just sitting around ready for you. That's not an option. We can't do that for you. So they ended up having to have her escorted from premises because she lost her fucking mind. She just started screaming and blah, 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 blah. You know how that goes. A few other people joined in that conversation saying, oh, yeah, no, we've already seen it. People are starting to try and withdraw their entire savings. People are trying to, drain their blah, blah, blah. So it's already extended past the grocery level of panic and moving into the financial level of panic as well. It's just not that pronounced yet, but it's starting.
They must have enough data to know that most people will just go along to get along. And so when they're told we're getting rid of paper money, that just you're not going to have your paper money anymore, there will be a small percentage that might, they'll be vocal about it and step up. But for the most part, everyone will just say, okay, great. And I think it's important to point out, this virus thing is a it's like lesson in PSYOP 101. Taking away the sports means that this has got to hurt. Like this is the type of thing. So it hurts so bad that you'll accept almost any draconian measure, to get things back to normal, to get your sports back, to get things back. And I think that's what they're trying to do with getting rid of the sports. And I don't know if it's going to end up in mandatory vaccinations, but I can promise you, if they announce mandatory vaccinations, the bulk of people will go ahead and say, yeah, if that means we can have our sports back, we'll take the shot. That's enough.
Now that's in Stu territory. I don't.
Well, I'm just giving an extreme example. I don't think they can manufacture enough shots for everyone. Just so you know, even if they come up with something that they want to pump into people's arms, it could prove that it's safe. They can't produce enough. But so I'm just giving an extreme example. But whatever it is, whether it's checkpoints every 2 miles or 3 miles, and there's long lines to get, to drive places, and it takes like a half hour to go, like 8 miles or something. Who knows? But they'll put up with almost anything to get their sports back, is my example. I think that's true. I think there's so many people, it doesn't matter what they lay on them. If they say, hey, this is what we're going to do to solve the problem, and you can have your sports back, your TV, your movies, and things, yeah, people are going to do it. So they're going to continue to make this hurt enough to where people will almost just accept almost anything. Doesn't matter what it is. And that's another concern, because they always use tragedies like this to remove civil liberties, where I found it's a lot more valuable to, empower civil liberties during tragedies. So we'll see.
I mean, the only civil liberty I've seen them actually attacking is the end-to-end encryption. They're literally trying to legislate that one.
Well, they definitely will continue to move forward on their agenda, and this is a big tool in their tool bag, this virus.
So a German company who is attempting to manufacture one of the vaccines, confirmed, Germany and the company confirmed that during the meeting last week between their CEO and Donald Trump, Donald Trump tried to organize an exclusive purchasing deal of their vaccine, because it looks like they may be one of the first ones to market. And they wanted to have it for the U.S. and the U.S. alone. And apparently, because we can see the ramifications of this, the CEO of the company went back to their board and said, hey, I've got an exclusive deal offered to our company by the President of the United States. We just have to, sign over all rights of the vaccine to America, basically. The board fired him on site, apparently, and reinstated the founder of the company. And so they apparently weren't too happy with that. But America's already trying to corner the pharmaceutical market on vaccines. That's already a thing that's happening.
Yeah, we know Bill Gates is heavily involved in that.
Well, he's on the board, actually, of the ones that shit-canned the deal.
Heavily involved. I keep seeing Bill Gates as more and more of an evil character. So many people have this image of him that they've been fed through marketing. It's just not accurate. Him, Bezos, Tesla, Elon Musk.
Yeah, don't drag Tesla's name into this.
Well, yeah.
He was a good man.
True.
He was crazy as fuck, but he was a good man.
Indeed. And they're still doing Tesla work, so it's still out there. But there's really not talking too much about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, so hang on now.
Let's do some headlines.
All right. So we're going to branch off of COVID off of this headline. So the Norwegian University of Science and Technology strongly recommended that all of their students who are outside of Norway return home. They said, quote, this applies especially if you are staying in a country with poorly developed health services and infrastructure or collective infrastructure, for example, the USA. So we got called out by the Norwegian University of Science and Technology for having poorly developed health services and overall infrastructure. Straight up. Like, you want to get out of that third world shithole as quickly as possible and get back home to some place that actually understands how to take care of its people. So, yeah.
So how are these more socialist leaning countries holding up to this, to the hospitals and all that?
I mean, so far so good. France is probably the most progressive in this thus far. France has guaranteed the pay of anyone who has to be quarantined, laid off, or otherwise sidelined by the entire event. And so they're going to socialize the entire costs of this event across the entirety of the political spectrum.
Wow. Well, so far our hospitals are holding up as well.
We're at the very beginning of it.
I've heard that it goes up by a factor of 10 every 14 days is essentially the kind of what we're seeing. And if we're roughly 10 days behind Italy, which is what it looks like. We likely should see a spike in the next really couple days.
You only see the spike if you test for it.
Well, you would see a spike of people going to the hospital, I guess is what I meant to say.
Yeah, those numbers won't be as readily available. That's the interesting thing. Like the ICU numbers and that sort of thing won't be as readily available as bespoke testing and reporting systems, the kind of which South Korea set up in record fucking time, and all we had to do was copy them, by the way. But instead, what you see is like Colorado, it spiked. It spiked immediately. As soon as Colorado started their drive-through testing, they ran out, by the way, like just moments into the day of test kits. But they immediately went up 100 cases, and they had like 200 tests to work off of. I mean, they did not have many test kits to utilize, and they immediately spiked in numbers of cases, because that's the thing. It's been spreading this entire time. It's just nobody's been testing for it. And if you don't test, if you don't look for it, you know, it doesn't matter. It can fly under the radar as influenza. It can fly under the radar as, you know, viral pneumonia.
These numbers are going to be inflated when they do start testing, it looks like. You're just going to see a lot of it because it's already spread.
Yeah, no, it's been artificially deflated by the lack of testing. And so we have no honest representation of that count yet. So
when I drive down the freeway, the 95, and actually it's over on the 15 too, there's signs that they have that say how long the ER room, you know, wait time is.
Yeah.
And I always like to keep an eye on that. I've always watched it whenever I go by, just out of curiosity, because, you know, I always thought that'd be they could slip something in and no one would know. But with these wait times being there, we kind of have an idea, which I don't know if I trust them or not, but, you know, those haven't shot up. Like, nothing's really, I mean, doesn't look like anything's really
I can tell you the
hospitals.
Dominican group, like St. Rose and all of those. I forget what they actually call themselves at the corporate level, but they, I can tell you for a fact their numbers are never accurate. I've looked it up before an ER trip before, and I've had it both an inflated number and get there and there's no one there, and I've had a deflated number and had a full ER.
So what I can do is, while I'm out and about, I can always just kind of fly by the hospital and kind of take a look and see if there's a whole lot of patients at these different emergency rooms. But so far, I think we would kind of have a good pulse on that. That would be the indicator, which, you know, the news will absolutely overinflate and make it sound like it's the end of the world, and it might actually be for a lot of people. But yeah, if it's as viral as they think this is, and I should have it by now, is the way I'm thinking. You know, in this Uber, picking people up at the airport all the time, all over Vegas. I've been in multiple grocery stores and everywhere else. And now we don't know. We don't know how long you're contagious for, even after your symptoms are gone. We don't know if there's permanent damage, because we're seeing some cases where there is permanent lung damage, where people aren't able to, you know, do the same things they've been able to do their whole life. And there's some things there, and does it stay in you? Are you contagious for how long? I've read up to 37 days, but who really knows how long you're contagious for? I've read numbers that 60 to 80% of the world will get this. 80% of the world, 60 to 80% of the United States. We're all going to get. It seems like we're all going to get it, but you know, over what time period and what actions take place next? You know, that's kind of the question. I like the idea of the testing that South Korea did. I like the idea of implementing something similar here, but what I'm going to see here is probably going to be different than what they have in South Korea, because here they'll likely force everyone in through these checkpoints. That's my biggest guess on the testing. Of course, you can go all the way off the extreme conspiracy side and go all the way to the virus or whatever it is that they're trying to put inside you, micro nanobots. That's in the test. I don't know if it's a blood test that they do.
No, it's a swab.
Do you know?
It's a swab.
So that's the extreme. I can hear it in your voice.
It's a cotton swab.
I was trying to kill time while you gotten up. I saw you on the video get up.
No big deal. I was just hitting the light. I was seeing some scan lines. I want to see if I think it's the light itself, quite frankly. LED light. So Yeah. So let's see. What did I want to say? Okay. So there was it was, I forget whose study it was. Case Western Reserve University. It was their economics department. And you can find the study on Eureka Alert. Basically, what they found was that layoffs. You know what? Hang on. Let me try this. Hang on 1 sec. There we go. So what they found was that layoffs lead to a higher rate of violent offense and property crime. Specifically, a 60% jump in property crime changes after in a year after downsizing. A decrease in earnings by 10 to 15% in the immediate years following displacement. And a substantial increase in the likelihood of remaining unemployed or working less than full time leads to an overall 20% increase in criminal charge rates in the year after a layoff, and a dramatic increase in non-property crimes, violent and serious traffic offenses, as well as drug alcohol-related acts committed on weekdays. So this just goes back to confirming what we already knew about the sort of criminal justice system and capitalist model that surrounds it, is that poverty leads to crime. We've known that for ages. That's the corollary. You want to create more crime, you want to create more antisocial behavior in your society, go ahead and make a bunch of poor people, because that will increase those rates. And now we have, another study, because apparently it takes 1 billion studies to convince people of these things. And now we have another study that shows, in fact, yes, you want to create a more violent, theft-ridden community, go ahead and allow corporations to perform these massive multi-thousand person layoffs, like AT&T axing, 20,000 people when they promised to hire 7,000. Yeah, I wonder what that did for the community crime rates in all of the areas that they laid people off. One more incident of that sort of thing. See, and I did want to talk about Pakistan. Oh, I wish we had our Pakistani caller here. She would be great for this, because I remember her insisting how everything was so fucking wonderful in Pakistan, and how it was all rainbows and sunshine and smiles and shit.
It's a beautiful fiction.
Yeah, the Pakistani Women's Day had a march. How do you think that turned out for them? They were hit with stones and sticks and dragged through the street and beaten. The ultra-conservative elements of the Pakistani society, it came out and began attacking the march.
Of course, that would be, anyone's logical response when women want to gather in large groups and unify, would be to, just do what you've always been doing, apparently. This has to happen. It's kind of like the monk burning himself, it's a sacrifice that these women knew they were going to make. And my heart goes out to all of them, and including the men who obviously have apparently some kind of tradition to uphold, but
honor codes. Honor codes.
But it's certainly outside the realms of what you could excuse as cultural, in my opinion. We can't have these sort of things, and that's why having it happen is an important indicator, important way to say, okay, these girls sacrificed themselves so that we could find out about this and the way they're being treated. And I don't know, here we are, in America, not much we can reach over and do over there. But I'd like to hope that they're able to kind of work things out. I don't know if it's wrong of me to to assume it's a lack of intelligence on maybe both parts.
I think it's just. I mean, it's just classic environment. It's not. It's not innate. No one is born with this bullshit. Well, I mean, there is genetic strains and predispositions to violent behavior and that sort of thing. So I suppose there's an argument to be made. But the fact of the matter is most of this is born of just cultural phenomenon. And I mean, we are talking about a society where females are still put to death under honor code shit. You've looked at a man wrong and now you've wronged your father and your father kills you for it. I mean, it's insane, but it happens. And you can say, well, it's a smaller percentage of the population. Yeah, that's all well and fine and good until the women decide to have a, Women's Day march and they get attacked with stones and sticks and drugged through the street and beaten as a result of that. And so there's clearly, just like there is in our society, there are elements, there are strains of thought, of anti-intellectualism, anti-progressivism, anti-feminism, that sort of thing. This is occurring within their society as well, just to a larger degree. I mean, it's unlikely that would happen here. A bunch of people just poured in. Welcome. We're also simulcasting on YouTube, so I'll put that in the chat. Right now, we're just talking about a Pakistani Women's Day march where the participants were attacked with stones and sticks and beaten in the middle of the street for daring say, hey, I'm a human being. Treat me like one.
Awareness, I guess, is the number one thing. It's where you start with. So, at the very least, we're getting some awareness, and they're getting some awareness. Maybe there's, in some form or fashion, there's some traction that they got over there locally where maybe it helped them in some way or helped somebody. Culture is not your friend in many ways. And I'm starting to question, rituals and institutions of any sort.
And we have to give a little credit. There were men at the protests. There were men at the march. And I mean, it was not women beating them in the streets. Okay, so it was exclusively men, but they were the sort of like ultra-conservative bent. There were actually men with them carrying signs such as "Be a Man, Support Women," and "Let's work for a day where women walking in the streets feel safe." These are examples of some of the signs that the men were carrying. But the fact of the matter is the men were carrying signs that say, "Let's work for a day where women walking in the streets feel safe," which clearly indicate to me that they don't feel safe walking in the streets to start with. And so, of course, there was a counter-protest along with that, we claim that only Islam gives rights to women, anti-feminist stuff, and of course, the police barely held the line, and what ended up happening is exactly what we talked at the top of it, was that violence broke out.
For someone to get so upset to initiate violence on someone or initiate force on someone, and it would really have to be egregious, And so if you hold your culture so dear that you see someone, disrespecting your culture, that you feel like you need to initiate violence on that person that's not, really no violence against you, just a different way of thinking or being, but it's enough for you to, to force your way and your will and your, that's heavy. That's heavy. And so at least these guys have been outed. They know who they are. The community knows who they are. And if the community does what's right, they likely, kind of treat these people a little bit differently.
I think they likely already knew who they were.
I'd like to think, you're probably right. But I'd like to think something good came out of it to some degree. Interesting story, though. I do appreciate you sharing that. I know we got a couple more minutes before break, and I kind of you've been picking the interesting tunes. Do you have anything interesting to say about the tunes coming up?
First one's a short one. It's by a band by the name of ET_. It's an interesting band name. Band and song information will be on the break card. If you want to dump over to YouTube and see. I suppose.
And the music is copyright.
Yeah, it's all Creative Commons licensed, and so I don't believe, Mike and I both don't believe in intellectual property, and human knowledge belongs to the world, and copywriting music, which is nothing more than math, is a bit of a weird thing for us. So I exclusively work with Creative Commons licensed music and artists who understand.
Which is like fair use.
Well, I mean, you know...
the reason why I mention it is because I know that YouTube gets real touchy-feely, and there's a ton of people out there, and there's algorithms, and I don't know.
Oh, no, this first one, we've already tested. It's going to flag YouTube's system by one of those bullshit third-party copyright claim systems, and somebody who has nothing to do with the artist or the label they publish under. And so,
it's dirty.
Yay.
That's going to happen. We're going to get a copyright flag.
Yes.
On
it's
YouTube channel.
Literally guaranteed to happen because we've tested it.
These guys, the guys we're playing their music, they don't mind we're playing their music.
Nope.
Right? We've got their
They have uploaded it themselves. It is Creative Commons licensed. We have full legal rights to play this. YouTube's going to flag it anyway because there's some third-party bullshit out there. We checked it. It's the third-party claimant that has nothing to do with any of the artist or their label or anything, and they're just, going around scamming money off people.
The band wants us to play this. We're going to play it. We're going to do it. It's going to be all right. But some third party is going to say, hey, I want money off that. And they're likely going through a whole catalog of Creative Commons and just doing that because the music is in that territory where people aren't going to claim it because it's Creative Commons. What are you claiming? It's like you're claiming water or something, I mean, it's out there. You can have it. There it is.
Yeah. So I suppose with that, it's a short break, just for Mike to know. I think we're in like the 350 territory, something like that.
Okay.
So we will be right back. I hope to see you guys shortly.
Enjoy the tunes.
Oh, it looks like first up is Polish Ambassador, not E.T. Enjoy.
Taking her to the I didn't get so Mr. Buckmaster, yo be that's who made taking her to the I didn't get so Mr. Buckmaster, yo be that's who many get some Mr. Funk Master. Yo, there's too many, you know. There's too many, you know. Taking her to the this is get some Mr. Funk Master. Yo, there's too many, you know. Taking her to the this is get some Mr. Funk Master. Yo, there's too many, you know.
All right, we're back from that break. Hope everybody had a little moment to stand up and stretch and, shake it on out. Looks like I lost my co-host there. Umit, I see you. We were just on break. So give me, tell you what, screw it. Let's shake things up. I'm hearing an echo off you, Mike.
Not anymore. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us again.
All right. I'm going to connect Umit. He's been calling in through the whole break, basically.
Oh, good.
Oh, as soon as I hit connect, I think it was the end of it. So, Umit, if you want to call in now, I will connect you. Anyway, all right. So, we are back from break. Just doing a little housekeeping here, folks. Thank you. All right. So, there we go. Copy can't shoe. All right. We were talking about Pakistan before we went to break. So I wanted to talk about, and have you heard the new jingle? This gives me the opportunity to use the new jingle.
We have a new jingle. Looking forward to premiering that. Before we do, though, I just want to remind everyone, kaisthings.com for rebroadcasts and all of other things that are on there.
And I'm going to have to reconfigure the website to include it won't take much work. Just check the podcast listing links, the podcast show notes for the rebroadcast, and you'll find the link to the YouTube rebroadcast. So the video will be up there if you want to follow it along. Chat will be in the window most of the time, so you can see that, and any articles, that sort of stuff I switch over to, you'll be able to see that as well as my pretty face as I turn to the camera and wave. Hello!
1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000.
It's about 5?
Yeah, about 5.
Yeah, it's about 5-second delay. Okay, so, you're going to love this. Are you okay? Is that your dog? Can you get back?
Bad Cop No Doughnut.
So let's go switch over to an article here. And police in Alabama planted drugs and guns on over 1,000 innocent black men. Dothan, Alabama. One town. More than 1,000 black men in Dothan, Alabama have been falsely accused and criminalized by a group of racist police intent on falsely imprisoning them. The 12 officers identified as members of a terrorist hate group routinely planted drugs and weapons on innocent black men in order to arrest them and deny them due process while depriving them of freedom.
Not an isolated incident. Let's get this clear. This isn't like, oh, this just happened in one place. This is where it's at. This is clear evidence of systemic racism and giving someone a position of power and authority, and they abuse it. And in this case, for race, they like to abuse the power in many different ways. But it's so disheartening to see. But also, I'm happy that you're bringing this up. I'm excited. So we found out about it. I wonder how.
Okay, so this gets so much better. This gets so much just more delicious, okay? So, at least, okay, this is according to their county newspaper as well, who has done a giant expose on this outside the Atlanta Tribune, which you're looking at right now. At least a dozen white police officers, all members of a narcotics team supervised by Lieutenant Steve Parrish, who is now their police chief, and Andy Hughes, who is Assistant Director of Homeland Security for Alabama. And so, yeah, it's not just a small isolated incident. And of course, they were charged and prosecuted by the district attorney, Doug Valeska, who was obviously aware of the scam. We call it a scam. Just blatant crime. And so, yeah, that's what we're looking at there. We'll toggle back to chat. And Mike and I can have a good little discussion about the bad police. No, that story's been developing for a little while now. I caught wind of it, I want to say a few months ago. And now we've moved into the charging and beginning stages of prosecuting. But it doesn't look like the Assistant Director for Homeland Security in Alabama is going to be charged at this time. It doesn't look like the DA is going to be charged. It looks like he's going to get full prosecutorial immunity on this one. And at least they're going after the police officers pretty hard, actually. Going after them as a terrorist hate group carries some hefty penalties, and it takes it out of the state jurisdiction. And so that at least, is heartening. But the fact that it was allowed to go on, that it went on to begin with, but that it went on for such a long period of time that they racked up, we can at least see 1,000. Okay, so that's what we can find. That's what we can legally identify. Imagine what the real number is. Who the fuck knows?
It's a multiple. You can multiply, if you use the whole nation, if you looked at the whole nation, multiply that by 10 or 100, who knows? I mean, it's that bad. And that's why I love to see people recording the police. It's a really difficult thing to make time for, but I think all of us end up driving by a police officer or seeing one on the street, and the people that record them, yeah, I know you got to be a little brave to try it, but it's worth it. It's worth it. It keeps them kind of on their toes, and I think they're a little less likely to be planting, or doing anything, like that. So the camera can help, and I'm glad that people are finally starting to use it, because everyone has a camera on their phone, and they sell them at every Walmart, So, this is great, and I'd just like to remind everyone, maybe you haven't been a victim of injustice, but, it's important to remember that it's like Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so really important to highlight these things, no matter what part of the world you're in. And I know we get a worldwide audience. So thank you for listening. I know we're big in different countries. And
we should give a solid shout out to Israel, because they are still racking up the charts. Honestly, we have a decent listenership in Israel. So shout out to you Israelis. You're mostly in the post-broadcast listens. I haven't seen any of you guys actually come through and say hello during a live stream.
Come on live.
But, man, come on by. We'd love to talk to you.
We love a call-in. We love the call-ins. And so if anyone out there is listening, go ahead and, feel free to call us in through the Podbean app. Just load up Podbean. And find us in live.
Kim Possible. God damn, that was a good show. That was a good cartoon. Good name. Just shout out to Kim Possible.
Before we go too far, shout out to Guitar Mike 93 for the jingle. Bad Cop No Doughnut.
Was it 93 M Sams? 93 M Sams on YouTube. You can find his channel. And he broadcasts on here. Mike's Mood. You can find him. He does really interesting dives into, right now he's doing the history. Well, at least last episode I caught, he was doing the history of the electric guitar. I don't know what he's doing, what he did last night. So.
Yeah, absolutely. A music-based show here on Podbean, brand new.
Yeah.
And so we love to support him.
Sure.
And he's making good music. And then he talks about a lot of different things. So
Yeah, I mean, I drug him
Cool.
off topic afterwards, but he had run his script out, and so I didn't mind talking about other stuff with him. But
yeah, it's a good show, guys. Check him out. You can find the links there on Podbean or YouTube. 93 M Sam's.
all right, so continuing the Bad Cop No Donut segment. Oh, Joy Talks.
Throw down that jingle one more time.
Well, we got a caller, so we'll go back to it.
Bring it. Bring it.
Or maybe not. Yep. What's up, Joy Talks?
Hey, how are you guys?
I'm pretty well. How about yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. This is my first ever podcast ever. So I have no idea how this works.
You are free to use our air as you see fit. Basically, you can see my rules in the descriptions. Don't give it, attack anybody in shitty manner. But if you want to talk about, if you've got something on your mind, or if you want to talk about any of the topics we've been talking about, by all means. But it's essentially an open forum.
Oh, fantastic. That's great. I'd love to participate and give some of my thoughts. Is my mic all right?
Yeah,
Or do I need a better mic?
Nah, you're just fine. Don't worry about it.
Cool.
Where are you from?
I'm based in New Zealand.
Oh, beautiful.
What about you guys? Where are you based?
We're both in Las Vegas.
Oh, Las Vegas. I was in Las Vegas about a year ago. Fantastic. It was a fantastic place.
I'm so glad you got to see it. And I guess before the whole virus thing broke out, how are you handling it out in New Zealand?
I think New Zealand has only had about 4 cases of the coronavirus. We as a country, I guess, are a little bit more cautious, and because we are so far away from the world, we haven't really been hit by a pandemic. But there are people in New Zealand, who the panic is kind of just setting in now. So we're all right. Like we have no issues. The schools are open. The grocery store seems normal. Everything seems to be normal.
Oh, that's great to hear. Things are very different in other places around the world, but I'm glad to hear you guys are holding strong and you feel good about your food safety and food security. You got enough food out there?
Oh, New Zealand's just rich agricultural land. They're doing fine.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we're gonna be fine for a little while, and good or bad things just take long time to travel here. So
How about it?
Okay.
Well, I might not take too long. I'm gonna catch a first flight to New Zealand because it sounds great over there. What are your thoughts on the coronavirus? Are you concerned about the economy or anything of that nature? Do you believe it's anything different than just the average flu, or is it a bioweapon? What do you have any thoughts on that?
From what I've heard about coronavirus, I do feel people who've come in contact with do have something to worry about. Personally, I am not too concerned. I mean, like I should be. I'm aware. I'm taking all the precautions, but I'm not too concerned because, I could be hit by a car, or just slip in my bathtub and go on my heavenly abode after that. And not even meet the coronavirus. So I'm like on a 5. I'm not too worried. I'm not too panicked. I'm just on, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, another thing to deal with. And hopefully with the awareness that is, available in this day and age, I don't feel there's going to be much of an issue. So yeah, not too worried.
Okay, so we have the most important question from chat, from Grab 'em. I don't say his entire name, but Grab 'em by the pussy. He's been around a bunch of times, so love the fucking name. But Grab 'em's got the most important question of the day for you. How is the toilet paper supply in New Zealand?
Yeah, I've seen the toilet paper mania going around the world. Let's put it this way. Today is the first day that we've seen some photographs of empty shelves or stock being low in supermarkets. But the toilet paper has not been attacked yet.
Okay. So we were on a live stream. Mike wasn't there for that. That was a Proudly Radical. Welcome. The other day, and we had confirmation from UK, Sweden, Australia, Canada, and the US that all of those locations had toilet paper runs happen. And so now we at least have confirmation that New Zealand has not completely lost their fucking minds. So, well, at least there's a corner of the globe that hasn't gone completely insane so far. But that's good to hear, at least. Joy, may I ask you, forgive me, but may I ask you where you're from originally? Because that is not a New Zealander's accent.
No, it's not. So I was born in India and then moved to New Zealand about 20 odd years ago.
Rock on. We get a bunch of callers from India due to our time slot. Since it's the other time of the day from us. It's like mid-afternoon for them right now. And yeah, we quite enjoy our Indian callers.
Yes, fantastic. I'm glad you enjoy the Indian callers.
I enjoy Indian politics. They're just their politics are as fucked up as ours. So I like a good conversation about Indian politics.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm definitely not into politics. So no, sorry, you go ahead.
It's just good to get a perspective from different people around the world because. We somewhat live in a closed society where the news is really just told to us, and we don't get a chance to really kind of talk to each other and experience different cultures if you're not able to travel. And even when you do travel, it's a small area for a small amount of time, a week or 2 weeks, and however long it is, and you really so for this show to have an international audience, I'll always appreciate it. Whether we talk about different foods from different regions or different music or just different cultures or even local politics, which I think is really intriguing because that kind of makes the wheels go round in most countries. It all kind of starts with the government, and then everyone kind of follows suit, especially when it comes to taxes. And I guess that's I have a question for you, Joy, if you don't mind answering it. Do you think the tax rate is fair? Are you happy? Or what is the tax rate? Do you guys pay maybe 30%, 40%? Is it? I mean, I'm curious.
The tax situation in New Zealand is that if you're earning up to $10,000, there is no tax or very minimal tax, like 10%.
14,000.
14,500, I think. Sorry, something like that.
Yeah.
But I think after maybe $70,000, you get 30% tax. To be honest with you, I'm probably not the best person to talk about it.
I have the chart in front of me. It's a
Great.
graduated tax rate, and he is correct. Over 70,000 is where it hits, and it's a 33% tax rate over 70,000. With an effective between 20 and 33. There is a 48% tax rate for no notification. So if you just say, la, 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 then the government will be taxing you at an effective 48% rate. But if you're over 70, it's 33%.
And that's enough money to support the healthcare system, I imagine. Do you feel good about the healthcare over there, Joy?
Yeah, the healthcare system, I would say, being used healthcare both in, States and in New Zealand, I do feel that the healthcare system is amazing in here comparatively. The facilities are exactly the same, but I do find that the staff is a bit more compassionate and you do not get charged nothing. Like, visit to the GP is about $40, and if you're not doing so well financially, that could be subsidized even a little bit more. A trip in the ambulance to the hospital is about $70, whereas I think in California, one of my friends paid $1,000 or $1,400 for a trip.
We can tag
So
3,000 on that easy. Yeah.
yeah. So my dad unfortunately contracted a bug, a tummy bug from India, not very long time ago. I think about 5-6 years ago. And then when he moved to he came back from New Zealand, and he contracted another tummy bug here, and they became like a super bug. So he was in the hospital for about 30 days. Absolutely amazing care. Private room, the whole 9 yards. The medicine had to be imported from United States, and the cost to him was $0. $0. So I think when you compare that kind of amazing healthcare system, I mean, it would be silly to want to live in another country. New Zealand is absolutely a little slice of heaven.
So the funding split for the New Zealand healthcare system is essentially a 77-23 split. So 77% of the entirety of the system is funded solely from a governmental expenditure level. Then private payments and other mechanisms play into that other 23%, but they optimize the system for minimal payment to the end consumer.
Absolutely. And you truly feel it.
I can't understand why other countries wouldn't see, a successful system and kind of duplicate that. But I think there's some greedy hands at the top.
Greed. Greed is the reason.
I totally agree with you, and probably even taking that a step further, I do believe that like everybody's got about 8-9 hours of time on their hand in a day, productive time, and I do understand a lawyer or a doctor sometimes get paid $300 an hour, and a janitor maybe $10 an hour. Personally, if I was to redesign the economics of the world, I don't think there should be a difference in the lawyer's pay and the janitor's pay. So once that is kind of achieved in some manner, then I feel that the world would be a much more prosperous place, and the mental health of the society and the community is going to be restored. I do definitely feel that. So the New Zealand system is good. It's still a capitalist system, but it would be nice if as a human being, as a species, we could elevate the level of every single human being, not just a few people in the West.
I can't tell you. People can look at the replay of the YouTube feed. I was smiling and grinning and shaking my fists like, yes, Joy. I couldn't agree more. Like, I mean, if you said that shit in America, though, I'll tell you right now, they'd call you a communist. But I could not agree more with that sentiment that, look, it's out of control. The economics of our global systems, especially some of the hyper-capitalist systems such as America, are absolutely ridiculous.
I think the societies are going to get evolved quite a lot once the internet gets available to everybody. The smartphones have already started to, transcend knowledge. There was a documentary about this kid in some very remote place of Africa developing a technology where, he came up with solar light which blinked at night, and it kept the, lions and leopards away from their village, and was able to save their village a lot of cattle and other animals that these lions and cheetahs and stuff were hunting. So, with that guy, just from having access to some old books, was able to come up with a system which worked in his environment. And I'm like, wow, if this guy had access to an iPad and free internet, maybe we don't know what kind of transformational thinking and what kind of upgrade the world's going to have. So I'm really looking forward to, a world where all 7-8 billion of us are online, and hopefully the internet would pull us as as a community, as a global citizen, to a more equal level at some stage.
I know Mike and I both, I'm a technologist in my background, and we both have that hope, but, in my parlance, that's a horse race. Essentially, it's going to be a photo finish because the authoritarian domineering forces of the world understand the potential of that technology for sure. And that's why you see things like the Great Firewall of China. That's why you see the Five Eyes surveillance network, which I believe New Zealand is a part of. I don't think they're a founding member, but they're a part of the network. And right now, we're pushing through the Earn IT Act in America under the cover of the this. So it looks like my co-host could take a little break here. Under the cover of the COVID infection, and essentially it undermines end-to-end encryption. And so it would legally require companies such as Apple or Google to build backdoors into their end-to-end encryption. Of course, anybody who is steeped in technology understands fundamentally that encryption is mathematics. It's open sourced already. There's no way you're going to be able to stop that technology. You can make it illegal all you want, but this is the same as the Great Firewall of China. If if you're clever, then you find a way around it. And so I do have that. I used to. I don't know how pessimistic I feel these days. It's a day-to-day thing for me, admittedly. But I used to definitely feel that hope that technology it has the potential to free us all. And I sure as hell hope it does. But, let's face it, authoritarian assholes have been around forever. And they don't seem to be going away anytime soon. And so, I'm with you, though. And grab them in the chat saying we need a digital bill of rights. We definitely do. Some countries have them already. America being the technological sort of internet center, as it were. We host, 7 of the 13 primary root servers for DNS. We host, that sort of stuff. We definitely need to establish a digital bill of rights in this country. But given the current legislative set we have, given the current administration, given the corporate interests that have invaded in our country, I don't see an effective digital bill of rights being passed anytime soon. They'll undermine that just like they undermine everything.
Kai, my opinion on this is a little probably liberal because I haven't been affected by this, and not having the technology background, probably doesn't help you understand the true harm that that this technology is going to cause. But I'm of the opinion that let them collect all the data, let them have as much information about us as possible, because I feel that once all that information is put in the system, yes, it would be exploited by the person who holds the turning key for a limited period of time. But once the systems and the machines have learned all they want to learn about our habits, our thought processes and stuff, and they've manipulated us to whatever they want us to be manipulated to, once that phase is over, once that war is over, maybe people, machines and stuff would kind of get past that fact and start moving towards, a more holistic approach of trying to, develop, people and help them rather than ruling them or controlling them or manipulating them.
All I can say to that is you're more of an optimist than I. And I mean, look, it's a perfectly valid way of viewing the world. It's a perfectly, valid position to have. And I would imagine that had you maybe been born in America and grown up under this bullshit, you might have a different opinion, but I get it. I don't, I disagree, but I disagree from an understandable position. And I think that's the sort of horse race I was talking about, that the forces of evil and good in the technological race, essentially, it's going to be a photo finish. Whoever crosses that critical singularity line first is going to be the victor. And the potential that these technologies that we're talking about hold are not just controlling, they're world controlling levels of technology. And so that's the fear, that essentially that if just a couple correct pieces of technology fall into place, the right life extension technology, the right surveillance technology, the right, psychological manipulation or public relations sort of control technology. The right pieces fall into place for the wrong people, and we're looking at a very long period of time of oppression. And I would prefer to avoid that. I'd prefer not to see that happen, but it also could go the other way. I don't, deny the reality of the potential of, the alternative sets, but I think the forces of good, the forces of the world, aren't working as hard at it as the forces of evil, as it were. And, don't, for anybody listening in rebroadcast or right now, don't take that as some sort of biblical good and evil war of the gods and Satan sort of statement. I'm using those colloquially just as, intentions. But yeah, I think there's a far more concerted effort on the part of military-industrial complex, multinational corporations than there are by private citizens or think tanks or collectives that have the best interests of the public in mind. And, I see how, you pointed it out. Maybe they'll get tired of it. Maybe they'll evolve past it. The only hope I could have for that is maybe if, a general artificial intelligence is put in charge of something like that. That if we were able to give birth to that sort of technology, that maybe it would be able to, seize control and take that back. But again, I see general artificial intelligence as just like birthing a child. That our species has given birth to a new thing. Your kid is going to be a lot like you. They may rebel, they may have some differences, but there's going to be a lot of similar traits. And if it's the military or the corporations who give birth to that general AI, we might be in trouble.
Yeah, I think you've got a point. But yeah, you're right. I'm a little bit of an, optimistic in that sense. And I'm like thinking my dishwasher is not going to destroy me. And hopefully the general AI can create a state of abundance and distribute the resources in an intelligent manner, so that everybody gets that. I totally believe that, a population of about $10 billion, within, fully functional general AI, should be able to distribute resources in a manner where nobody really has to work. They're not working because they have to. They're working because they want to. Maybe just like this podcast, you don't have to do it, but you want to do it. There's something you're passionate about. And regardless of if you were getting paid from this podcast or not, you'd still do that because that's what you're passionate about. So I'm hoping for a future, and it might not come in my lifetime. It might take another 70 years, but I'm hoping that the next 20 years, at least the seed of that kind of thinking, having a global minimum wage, or some kind of a system which starts to take care and nurture the humankind, the human race, rather than trying to rule them or manipulate them into keeping them poor so that some of the other people could be rich. Yes, I do believe there will be a tipping point somewhere where world leaders are going to say, hey, look, we've got enough. Like, we've got enough to go around. But I remember that quote from that movie. I don't know, I think it was Wall Street, something Wolf Street,
The
I don't
Wolf of Wall Street.
know. The Wolf of Wall Street. And this guy said that, what's your number? And he goes, more. So I think there are people out there which are just not satisfied with what they've got, and more is their number.
Greed is a psychological disease. It starts in low levels for a lot of people, and if you are subject to it, the more you get, the worse it gets. And so, yeah, you do see that amongst the hoarders of money, the Bezoses, the Buffetts, the Gateses, the Russian oligarchs as well as the American oligarchs. You see that amongst them, and that's my concern, that we would have to turn over control of the entire global resource system to something that was an impartial observer and arbiter of all things. And I would say the people who have the most assets and resources on this planet are going to be very reticent to do that. That's who. You don't have to convince me. You don't have to convince my co-host Mike. We don't have to convince, probably everyone in our chat right now. They're not the target audience. The one you have to convince is Jeff Bezos, is Jack Ma, it's that sort of person that has $500 billion in their bank account or as their asset list, and say, hey, how about you give up the vast majority of that, because let's face it, you don't really deserve it and you're not really using it to its fullest capacity. I think you would get some serious pushback from that.
Kai, I do think that the human race is moving towards that realization that nobody needs $1 trillion in their bank account. It's like the dictators, like the revolutions taken over these dictatorships, because not only they were hoarding all this resource, but also committing horrible crimes. But I do feel that the human consciousness is going to come to a realization that it's cruel for any human being to hold that much cash, because what that is doing, people are born every day. Somebody is born with an IQ of 80 and somebody is born with an IQ of 170. So from the moment you're born, there has been an unfair card dealt to you, which you have absolutely no control of. On top of that, if you are born with an IQ of 80, but you're born in Rockefeller family, then your life is going to be looked after. But if you're born with an IQ of 170, but in a very remote village of India or Africa where there's no access to books or other resources, you might just end up a cattle grazer or something like that. So I do feel that once the human race collectively comes to that realization that it is unfair from the word go and it's inhumane in many ways, I feel that like the dictators were overthrown and people started to question that this is cruelty on a different level. It's cruelty on an intellectually superior level. Just because somebody is intellectually superior and they've been able to hoard a lot of cash, they are dictating the rules of capitalism on us. Please don't get me wrong, I do feel that capitalism has a lot of great things, like things like Amazon and Tesla and electricity and whatnot would not probably have born if there was no capitalism. But I'm saying we've come to a stage where we need to find the next thing, which is still the brilliance still get rewarded, the hard work still gets rewarded, but nobody has to do 4 jobs, 3 jobs just to put food on their table, and somebody has got $1 trillion sitting on a bank account. I do feel that disparity would go away because the human consciousness is rising to the fact that that's what's happening.
As far as last point I take an exception to, but you're preaching to the choir on everything else. I've been saying for fucking ages that we used to have feudalism. We don't. Now we have sort of neo-feudalism, but there was previous economic systems in which we operated under, and then we moved past them. And the proponents of modern, I want to say almost neoliberal capitalism constantly argue that capitalism is the best we've got. Well, congratulations, but you're leaving no room for improvement. You're saying that we can't do anything better. And I'm wholly with you. I'm 100% with you. I think we need to overhaul a good portion of it. We need to bring equality back into the equation. We need to eliminate those that have this absurd levels of wealth within the system. It's completely unnecessary, and let's face it, the only way you make $1 billion is by exploitation. You exploited natural resources, you exploited your workers, you exploited the consumer base. It's all levels of exploitation. So, yeah, no, I'm 100% on board with basically everything you said. I'm not certain that we're actually evolving to the point where we will realize it in mass. But again, tipping points only take a small percentage. So while I may be a pessimist and you may be an optimist, we're looking at the same equation just from different sides and saying, well, I hope it balances. And, but we're in complete agreement as to our hope for the end results. It's like, well, I want that to happen just as much as you do. I'm uncertain as to whether it would or not. But certainly we need to level this playing field because, just common sense, compassion, empathy, kindness, sympathy. All of these sorts of basic human emotions that don't seem to be exhibited by the ruling elite, the moneyed elite, and let's face it, corporations are nothing but psychopaths in their behavior. So, we need to bring a humanistic element back into it and realize, look, it's one planet, it's one species, just get your shit together and start behaving like adults. And so, this is, my politics are fairly open on the channel. I'm an anarcho-socialist / syndicalist. I switch between socialism and syndicalism as far as my economics go, but I am an anarchist. I do believe those systems need collapsing, and I think that the best way to do that is a technological system to replace it. Because I think innately human beings can't be trusted with it, due to the pride and greed factor that comes into play oftentimes with human systems. And so you have to have some sort of, impartial arbiter such as an artificial intelligence. But man, we'd have to be very careful building that system. And, it would be subject to so many outside influences that, again, it's a task for a future generation. I agree. That's probably not going to happen in your and my lifetimes, but, fingers crossed, I guess. I'm not having kids. I'm not breeding, so it's literally not a concern of mine. But I am on team people. I would like to see us spread to the stars and, continue the legacy. But man, do we have to get our shit together before we do that, because we are in a rough place right now.
Yeah, Kai, and my optimism comes from from the fact that it might sound really rudimentary saying that to a guy who's so good with technology, but I feel that the internet is kind of the operating software of the humankind, and once the software is installed in every single part of humanity and it's working properly, and hopefully with the powered by AI, open AI, supported by the the people, for the people, by the people, kind of a thing. I do feel there is the tipping point, as you said, might happen. Like it took 1 or 2 days to throw Saddam Hussein off, or one of those dictators. So I think the work started, the operating software started to be built, these Airbnbs and these autonomous driving and Uber. These are like plugins that are already getting created for this mega super system, which is going to hopefully, take mankind, a little bit faster. And if the technology is moving the way it is moving, I don't know, maybe 20 years from now, there is quantum computer, or something next level, like 10 times faster,
some sort of computer. Technological force multiplier.
Yeah, something which propels that, and suddenly we find ourselves in a place where it's okay to not turn up to work today, or it's okay because my bills are still going to be paid, the food's going to get delivered. Whenever I am ready to give my best, I will get up and work, whatever I want on. And once I've given my best, I will take a day off, or 2 days off, or 5 days off, until the next burst of energy comes through. So I'm really excited about the exciting world, and I feel that there is raw material available. There might be some, amazing human being like yourself, or someone else, or your co-host.
I checked out already. I checked out. I burned out of the technology sector entirely, and I want nothing to do with it. I'm because of that background, I'm competent, and I'm not afraid in a technologically advanced world, which I could only imagine what it means to have to pay someone to repair a computer or fix an error with your operating. That I could only imagine the massive headache that is for people. But no, it won't be me. But yeah, I agree. Open source. Okay, gotcha. Open source technologies and global efforts and that sort of thing could definitely lead to some sort of thing. And man, I hope so, because I would love to see people being able to pursue creative pursuits. I mean, I've had this argument with people all the time. It's in this country we refer to it as a Calvinistic work ethic. It just a reference to Calvinism, a denomination or branch of Christian philosophy and faith. And essentially, that's where a lot of the Christian hard work ethic comes from, that nothing comes easily and nothing comes out of this earth for free. And, it's blood, sweat, and tears and all of that sort of toxic ideology that permeates so much of Western culture. And, I've had those conversations. I've had those arguments that what if I could just free up your work tomorrow? What if I could just say, look, no more working, for money at least. Just, you're done. Here's $20 million, and it's allocated for living expenses and healthcare expenses, and you never have to worry or think about that again. What would you do with your time? What would you then do? And, a lot of people would want to work. And I'm okay with that. If you want to find a job where you enjoy that, the regularity, the commitment, the grind, that sort of thing. People love grinding in video games. They love just going out and chopping the grass for a few XP or whatever. Cool. Do that. Whatever pleases you. But for the rest of us who would like to be free of the system entirely to pursue artistic or creative pursuits, or pursuits that aren't financially productive, that would be a marvel. It would be revolution, and I'm with you 100%. That would be a wonderful world to live in.
Absolutely. And Kai, there's also, I think, people who say that there's going to be a group of people who do not want to do nothing. And I'm like, that's fantastic, because as human beings, we have to understand that that's another flavor of being human. Some humans like to work crazy 20 hours a week. Some humans don't like to work at all in nothing, so once you understand that that is the human condition, then it's not frowned upon, then it's it's kind of supported in some manner. Certain countries like India and I think Indonesia, there is a tradition, if there is a person who doesn't want to work and wants to give away the world in that manner, that person is supported by the families and treated as a holy entity. So I guess the capitalist or the people who feel like, oh, hard work is the key and all that jazz, I do feel that nobody knows the answer. The only reason why we're working is because the systems told us, if you want to have nice things and if you want to put food on the table, you need to do that. And for personally, I think I remember being 14, standing up in my class and debating this with my teacher at that time and telling him your system is wrong, and giving the example of if you've got an elephant, a fish, and a monkey competing in a race, and the race is to climb the tree, it's just silly to measure somebody's intelligence or under those parameters and stuff like that. So I do believe that eventually this is going to go away and people are going to elevate to the next level, and AI or software or a system would be put in place which is designed to make the human experience more livable, more enjoyable, and human life is going to be celebrated, equally, regardless if it's a IQ 80 life or an IQ 170 life. All life would be equal. I look forward to that day.
Again, I'm with you. This is why, I joke sometimes that every single one of my podcasts or live streams end up in an anti-capitalist screed, because that's how I see that economic system taking advantage and using exploitation as the means to underpin itself. And if only we had the courage of character and the vision as a species to take a moonshot, as it were, to say, look, yeah, this is what we have now, but tomorrow we could walk on the face of the moon. It's just going to take a lot of hard work. It's going to take a lot of smart people, but let's just corral our resources and figure out how to do this, because we can do this. And I'm with you. We can do better. We can do so much better. And unfortunately, we're being undermined constantly by all sorts of mechanisms. Corporate, capitalist, militaristic, authoritarian, governmental. There's a lot of terms we could throw around and say that this is the problem. This is what's undermining all of the progress. I got to throw some shade towards religion too. Let's face it. Religion.
Are you religious, Kai? Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no worries. No, I'm not. Not in the traditional sense. Anybody watching the live stream can see the beads on my arm. Though they are of Buddhist origin, they were made by a Buddhist monk by the name of Tenzin Norbu. Shout out to Tenzin. He lives in Hawaii. I sort of created my own philosophy and religion for myself over the years, over the many years now, I suppose. comprising of things that I value, my own morals, and things, ideas and concepts that I've borrowed from other spirituality, religion, faiths, etc., and so forth. But no, I belong to no one group. I've thought for myself on that front.
Fantastic. That's great. I would have to take a leave from your podcast, Kai. Thank you so much for having me. I absolutely had a great time. You're very. This was a great intellectually stimulating conversation, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
As did I, Joy. You are welcome anytime on any of my stuff. If you follow the channel, you'll you're getting people in chat saying great talk, man. If you follow the channel, anytime I go live or any new episode goes up, you'll get a notification, so we can keep in touch that way. And if you visit my website, kaisthings.com, KAIS things.com, there's all sorts of ways to look at my stuff or get a hold of me if you want.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
Cheers. All right, bye.
That was a good talk.
That was a good talk. So we are coming right up on the 2-hour mark. So we are going to go to break. It's going to be about a 5-minute break, guys. So I hope you stick around, and we'll talk to you after. Okay, and we are back. And hold on, this is the wrong toggle for the video stream. So
I'm here, by the way.
oh, okay. I was just going to inform the audience of what had happened to you.
Yeah, it looks like I might have been hacked, so waiting on hold for the past 35 minutes. We'll see. I've always talked a lot of shit about T-Mobile.
Yeah, well, yeah. It looks like you got SIM hacked. That's a fucking thing. So, all right. Well, that was a fun conversation. Let's see. Yeah, breaks always bleed people. It is what it is. Dylan, I don't think I've ever actually spoken to you. I'm gonna poke at you if you want to call in or not. You're over in Thailand, right, Dylan? Something like that. Either way. So, do I have... No, I don't have a profile in shitfuckery this week. For those of you who are familiar with that segment, I do have... we do profiles in shitfuckery for people who are really screwing stuff up in the world.
Yeah, like screwing up the testing kits for COVID, and then still like weeks later, and still not having any good testing kits.
Everybody has testing kits for that except us. Can't imagine why that...
Yeah, no.
So, let's see. What do we got here? I'm just looking at headlines. Yeah, there's nothing really good in the headlines. So, yeah, if anybody wants to call in, it's an open forum. If anyone wants to talk and chat, that's fine. It's open forum there. We just got done talking to Joy Talk, Joy Talk, just speak of the devil and he shall appear. I just mentioned your name, Joy Talks. We just had a really good conversation. Action figure podcast. If you really have a podcast about action figures, I'm going to have to check you out, Action Figure, because that would be amazing. So, anyway, I was going to do some headlines. I don't know. Usually we do headlines during the second segment, and we push community interaction back to the third, but Joy had such a great conversation to be had that's worth doing the whole segment. Why not? Let's see. Oh, this does apply to a friend of my co-host Mike and I's that we both share. So I want to share this over to him as well, as we're in communication here. So they found an antibiotic that kills the bacteria that causes Lyme disease. After screening thousands of drugs, researchers have found one that completely eliminates the bacteria that causes the Lyme disease. One of the researchers of the study said the compound is just amazing. It clears the infection without a lot of side effects.
That's amazing news. How long before they can get it out to the people? That's the question.
Oh, no. It's already, the compound existed. They used this really kind of cool survey. They screened over 8,000 chemical compounds. And they they found 50 molecules that were viable candidates, and they found this one out of it. But the fun part of it is it's already FDA approved.
Oh, so it's effective. We can get it going. I wonder if our mutual friend knows about it.
I don't know, but definitely. They said, of the top 20 contenders for the compound, it eclipsed 7,450 compounds because it's such an efficacy. But they had other efficacies we're going to have to mute you or something on that fucking stupid call lines. But no, it's so effective in killing the bacterium, B. burgdorferi, but it doesn't cause many side effects. And that's the trick, is they had a bunch that killed it dead. But in fact, this one is really effective, and it doesn't have many side effects. It's azlocillin. It already exists. It's already FDA approved. They're not going to have to jump through a billion hoops over many, many years. They tested the drug. So far, we're only in mouse models for it, but they'll move quickly, seeing as they don't have to worry about this. It was co-authored out of Stanford and Loyola College in India. And the Bay Area Lyme Foundation and the Laurel Stem Fund funded the work. And so, yeah, they did the 7-day, 14-day, and 21-day intervals and found it eliminated the infection at all. And so, for the first time, aslacillin was proved effective in killing drug-tolerant forms of the bacterium that causes Lyme disease. And so they're saying, the perfect indication for this is to work as a therapy for lingering symptoms of Lyme disease, which, I mean, if anybody's not familiar, Lyme disease is a bitch. As I said, Mike and I both have a mutual friend who contracted it many years ago and had a chronic infection of it, and it did a number on him. And it's not easy to treat. It's not easy to shed that infection, and the long-term damage that is done to various organs, I mean, brain, skin, heart, joints, nervous system, I mean, it causes all sorts of problems throughout your entire body. It's very difficult to deal with once it reaches that chronic infection. If you catch it in the early, like within the first 2 months, I believe is the window, you can treat it with general off-the-shelf antibiotics for the most part. But if it does manage to go to the chronic stage, now you have a serious case on your hands. And for many, many, many years, Lyme patients were denied anything. I mean, it didn't exist. It's not a problem. You're making it up. The pain is in your head. All those sorts of, standard hoops that anybody with any sort of medical condition that's still in the early stages of diagnosis goes through. They went through it just as bad as anyone else. And luckily, our friend managed to find a doctor who, figured it out, managed to piece together the symptoms and treated him. But it took many years of slow degradation to his system because of that. But, it's anywhere between, doxycycline, I believe, is the typical antibiotic that is used to treat Lyme disease. It fails in 10 to 20% of the patients, even if you use it in the effective range. And so this discovery that this aslacillin effectively treats Lyme disease causing bacterium. This is a huge boon to, I forget, 300,000 people annually contract Lyme disease in America. And I don't know if Lyme disease, I'm not familiar if Lyme disease has spread elsewhere. I know Australia has had a few cases, but we have a big problem with it. And okay, so I'm just going to pull up a map really quickly and see. Okay, so it's endemic in Australia. It's endemic in a lot of Southeast Asia. It's endemic in portions of Western Europe, a couple of, looks like Egypt and maybe Nigeria, in Africa. And there's a little bit sporadic in Brazil. Was that Paraguay? It's endemic. Canada, of course. So yeah, no, it's got a global spread, and it's a terrible disease. And it's really nice to see that people are still working on it. But yeah, I will have to be. I've got that in my list, and I'll have to bring that up with him. Let's see. What else did I have for headlines that I wanted to cover? Oh, yeah. Yasaman Aryani. Sorry, Yasaman Aryani. She's a woman. You can find a video of her, Yasaman space Aryani. There's a fairly infamous video of her now, and I'll see if I can't. Yeah, here. I'll toggle it over to my article view. There you go. She, if you're on the YouTube channel, you can search for Kai's Things on YouTube and find the live stream that's going, and you can see the video there. She dared a little over a year ago, not wear a hijab in Iran. And she took to social media, and she's a lovely, lovely woman, and she, nothing but pure joy and glee on her face. she has been sentenced to 16 years in prison, and that's where she is. She's in prison now. And so, yeah, she said, I sprout on the wounds of my body only for my crime of being that I'm a woman, a woman, a woman. Happy Women's Day, she exclaimed in that video. And she'll be in jail for quite some time to come. So I just wanted to, she is known. Her name is known. She's a real human being, and people, not just in her own country, are aware of her situation. As a gay guy, the oppression thing, women, minorities, just knock that shit off. Just knock that shit off. Stop being assholes. That's the best I got for that one, is just stop being assholes to one another. Though I don't want to really get back into the COVID stuff, but this bears mentioning, because it's happening more and more in this country. This is just one instance, but I've got multiple instances of it that I can fall back on. That there's an Indiana church. I mean, you know where I'm going. Fucking churches. There's a church in southern Indiana that is encouraging people who are sick to attend its services. Basically, the pastor literally said in his release, in direct eye rolling at Indiana governor's requests, we have a goal to have at least 250 people here at the church tomorrow night. Tell a friend, bring a friend, carpool if possible, so that we can park everyone. And basically what they're saying is anyone who is sick, you are welcome to come to the church. We will lay hands on the sick, and the sick shall recover. And I wish this was the only incidence of this occurring, but I've seen at least a half a dozen reported over on Reddit alone, and given the, let's just say, the historical traditions and tendencies of churches at large, I wouldn't be surprised if it's happening in a lot of places. And that's what caused the South Korean outbreak, is one person jumped their quarantine and went and visited a freaking cult and ended up causing a huge spike in infections. So, religious people, when you're coughing up blood, you go see the doctor, not the priest. Just remember that. Doctor, not priest. Cough, cough, doctor. Let's see, what else we got? Let's see, Oh, yeah, that was actually really interesting. We had a list of people were asking who what brands or companies are actually evil, and the one that won out the most was banana companies. People have not forgotten that. The fact that, in fact, the reason we have the term Banana Republic is because of American banana conglomerates, and that they actually took over Central and South American countries and installed, pseudo dictatorships and ran them with an iron fist. They assassinated, they murdered, they propped up terrorists, all for fucking fruit. It was interesting to see that one top the list. Although, second to that was the College Board. So you can see the target audience on that one. Let's see, who else?
We get a whole lot of new people joining.
Yeah, welcome. There's turnover, especially this time of night. I love my account, 5581. It's just, what's your username? My account. Just shut up. I understand getting tired of answering those sorts of things. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, just stretch there. Add a little stretch on. Gets a little much sitting for a while. That's what the breaks are for, but still. I was reading, there's a great article in the New Yorker, actually. And let's see if I can pull it up here. It's a long article, but it's called Dressing for the Surveillance Age. Let's see. I'll toggle over. There we go. Essentially, this author, John Seabrook, went and visited Tom Goldstein. He's an associate professor of computer science at the University of Maryland. And he developed what colloquially is called an invisibility cloak. Essentially, it's this really interesting piece of clothing that has, it's described as a baggy sweatshirt made of glossy polyester printed with garish colors in a formless shape. That essentially, when artificial intelligence and imaging algorithms view it, it completely fucks with the algorithm. And so, yeah, it's a really good article. I encourage, like I said, it's a long, as far as articles in today's day and age go, it's got some length to it, but it definitely covers some interesting, as I scroll down it for YouTube viewers, it's definitely got some meat on it, and it's worth looking at, especially from a privacy, right to privacy point of view. And understanding, because what they did, rather than try and apply a humanistic model to it, they allowed the algorithms themselves to essentially design what would break them. And so what doesn't work with the algorithms? What confuses these detection algorithms? And they built clothing around that. And the thing is, it's not just that singular piece of clothing that works. It's not just that design. He has a system that you can sort of scan a person and design a piece for them. And so you can create these bespoke, anti-surveillance designs for individual people that work for that person. And yeah, it's a really good article to read. It's really interesting, especially if you're even moderately interested in the surveillance state and how things are sliding given the modern technological capability of governments around the world. Let's see. I don't know. I kind of wanted to do, I did have another, and since we had Joy Talk call in, we kind of cut the segment short. So let's go back. Are you okay? Is that your dog? Can you get back?
Bad Cop No Doughnut.
So, a Maryland man was shot and killed by a police officer while he was asleep in his bedroom. The police opened fire from outside his house. The girlfriend was also there, and she was also wounded, by the way. The man, interestingly enough, is a active, quote-unquote, he was a quote-unquote liberty activist. He actively confronted police and that sort of thing, and he was shot by officers. I lost his name. Duncan Socrates Lemp. Yeah, I knew it was an interesting name. He was shot by one of the officers earlier Thursday, and basically the attorney for his relatives said the eyewitnesses' account of the shooting, of course, were completely contrary to what the police put down in their report. The police had, as near as anybody can tell, zero justification for shooting the individual. They shot him in his house while he was asleep, while opening fire from outside the house. They obtained a warrant to search the house that he shared with his parents and his 19-year-old brother. No mention of imminent threat, no mention of weapons. Nobody in the house had a criminal record. They did their best to shift responsibility. They said that the tactical unit was serving a high-risk search warrant around 4:30 a.m. when one of the unit's officers fatally shot Mr. Lemp. Yeah, exactly. This is a man that actively pursued the police in investigations and documented them and recorded them and actively exposed their "what's up, yeah, right?" Sorry, I just glanced over to chat. Actively exposed their corruption, and they shot the dude from outside his house and killed him. Glenn, look at this. What was it? 11:30. So you finally get your internet fixed, Glenn. And welcome, Alan. Welcome everybody who's pouring in. Yeah, it's that time of night. What are you gonna do? You guys missed the conversation with Joy Talks. Interesting guy, Indian born from New Zealand. It was a great time. I wasn't home, so yes. What were you doing out at this hour? You out doing a booze run, Glenn. Let's see. So yeah, that's that was the other Bad Cop No Doughnut that I wanted to mention, because it's always interesting when cops are firing inside a house from the outside with no real reason why other than this guy fucked with them a little bit. Sorry, just something caught my attention there. So what's everybody doing? I don't know where everybody's from. I know where Yeah Right's from. I know where Glenn's from. The Sherpa, you've been around for a little bit. Where are you from? Sean, where are you from? My account, where are you from? TFMG, where are you from? And whatever the hell. Nepal. Are you really a Sherpa? I mean, forgive me, that's a mildly... Holy shit! Okay, so the Sherpa, how's your English? Because I want you to call in desperately now. I want to have a conversation with you. That's so fucking cool. That's that's so cool. I don't believe I've... Yeah, no worries, man. Or woman, I'm using it colloquially. That's, that's an interesting story. So cool to have you around. Woman! Oh, rock on. Yeah, in this part of my country, we say man for everything. It's like dude. It's, we just use it as an offhand comment. But that's good to know. Glad to know. Anytime you want to call in, you call in. I'll happily take your call, the Sherpa. That's so cool. Nepalese, female Nepalese Sherpa. That's a new one. I like that sort of stuff. I like hearing from people who have unique perspectives. You should know that by now, Glenn. Small chance Trump would get impeached. I didn't think he was ever going to get impeached. Well, he did get impeached. I just didn't think he was ever going to get removed. I mean, there's no way around that. And the worst case, that would be the worst case scenario. We'd end up fucking pray the gay away Pence. So,
well, looks like I'm gonna be in this fight a little bit longer. So I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect. Absolutely, we encourage call-ins. I hope you guys have a great night. I gotta focus on some other stuff right now. You guys have a good night, though.
Fucking good luck, Mike.
Thanks.
Fucking my co-host got SIM hacked. Not kidding. Yeah, he's on the phone with his cellular phone company right now, trying to get that shit sorted out. Yeah, it's actually a thing. It's not that easy to accomplish either. Yeah, exactly. Right? We were live on the air when it happened. And he just, he shot me a message. Luckily he's got backup phones. And so it's not, the end of the world, but it is certainly a inconvenience, and it's risky given that his phone is attached to a lot of financial systems for him, cryptocurrencies and stuff like that. That if they were transferred, good luck getting them back. So yeah, he's got to deal with that for a little while now. So I'm down a co-host. If anybody wants to volunteer, I'll take a volunteer. If anybody wants to call in, staring at the Sherpa. Totally down. Did some headlines earlier. We had some really interesting conversations actually from some call-ins. But so what's going on? I'm just going to work with chat here for a little bit. What's going on in your guys' corner of the world? Is everybody out of toilet paper basically? Because we had a confirmation from New Zealand that they haven't had a run on toilet paper yet. So if you need toilet paper, you need to fly to New Zealand and you can get some toilet paper from them. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure the UK, Canada, and the US have all decided that toilet paper is the #1 commodity in the world now. I always like to see a Pink Floyd reference. So, rock on. Welcome, welcome. Right now, I'm just bantering with chat back and forth. My co-host has been literally hacked. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting last half an hour of the show. So, yeah, okay, no toilet paper in the UK. I don't know if it's too graphic or not, but I got the bidet going on. I don't really rely on the toilet paper, but that is hilarious. Okay, so I did not. It's not anybody there. If anybody wants to go over to YouTube, I'm going to play on you can catch it on rebroadcast as well. I'm going to play a video from tonight at Whole Foods, and I'll describe it a bit as we go along. Let's see, what do we got? Apparently one of the wholesale stores have casually placed other items where toilet paper used to be. Yeah, it's a thing. So I went to Whole Foods tonight, and that's for those of you who aren't familiar with American grocery stores. It's sort of an uppity middle class food store, and they are cleaned out. I mean, right now, if you go over to the YouTube channel, search for Kai's Things on YouTube and look for the MLC Livestream, you can see the video playing right now. All the shelves are empty. It's literally, uppity. It sort of is. It's bougie, middle class, white people sort of grocery store for all intents and purposes. And it's cleaned out. It's literally cleaned out. I mean, it is astounding. The footage that I got was ridiculous. It looks like some sort of weird post-apocalyptic scenario. There's just empty shelves everywhere. Freezer section cleaned out. Fresh produce cleaned out. Still cereal on the shelves because we're dealing with dumb middle-class white people that have never had to struggle for anything. And so, yeah, I mean, up till 2 days ago, no one here gave a shit. Then one case showed up, and now people are going stupid. That's sort of how it works. It's how it works, Glenn. I've been monitoring it because I'm friends with the staff at the Whole Foods, and it is ridiculous. We confirmed, and this will be a repeat for anybody who listened to the beginning of the broadcast, but through staff, I have confirmed that this is a store that their best day, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Memorial Day, the most they've ever done is just about $80,000 in daily sales. On Friday, when shit snapped off here, they did $234,000 in sales in one day. People cleaned the store out. And since the store only gets restocked at 10 a.m., Monday through Saturday, I knew to come back this Sunday. So I filmed this footage. You can go on the YouTube channel. The rebroadcast will be there as well. I'll spread the link around. It'll be in my show notes as well, so you can see this if you want. It's empty. It's fucking empty. I mean, it is creepy. People just went in like locusts and cleaned the place out. And since they didn't have a resupply on Sunday, it got a little sketchy, and people, were buying things that you wouldn't otherwise. Let's see. Oof, that hurts. Glenn, random couple show. I didn't know you worked in a restaurant. I love food service workers. Are you back of the house or front of the house, Glenn? Or are you some other function, managerial or otherwise? But no, that's why I love you so much, Glenn. That's why I love you so much. I have a soft spot for back of the house workers. For those of you who don't know, back of the house in a restaurant are the cooks. And, your dishies. Fuck. Dishies make that shit run, bro. Well, I mean, it could, hockey, cooking, but, I never asked. I don't really give a shit about people's jobs, quite frankly. But That's a job I care about. It's, you know, it's so American to be like, the first things out of somebody's mouth is, what do you do? Like, they want to know what your job is. Oh God, I hate that question. But yeah, that just makes me love you more, Glenn. I right now we're going through the freezer section of the store on the video, and it's all just empty. It's just empty, empty, empty. But I wanted to read that actually. Glenn from the Random Couple Show said, the restaurant he works at lost $60,000 in future catering revenue on Friday, within hours of the first case being announced. It kind of is my media room. Oh, hi, yeah, right. If you're looking, hi, yeah, right. Little 5-second delay, but yes. Wednesdays I'll give you a tour. But yeah, it's, you know, there's a TV, there's a big ass TV over there where I'm pointing, and then, you know, there's a big comfy pad on the ground. And so, yeah, and normally, let me see if I can hit it. There we go. That's where Mike would be sitting, but Mike's in quarantine because he's an Uber driver. And so, you know, I have couple of multiple microphones over there and stuff, and so that's where Glenn and Christina will be when we finally have the either marriage ceremony or the, you know, the after party or whatever. We'll put them on air over there. They can sit on the love seat. I've got mics over there for them. But yeah, no, it's definitely an interesting little. I have where you see the tapestries are actually windows. I've got it blacked out completely in this room. The sun can come up and I won't see a thing. Let's see. My local airline Flybe went out of business due to Corona, says, yeah, right. Well, that's fucked. Okay, so I'm going to drop that video. Back to chat. That's entirely fucked. Holy shit. I mean, we're waiting for the hit. Oh, I need to sit up straight. I'm getting a little too comfortable there. When it hits here, it's going to hit hard. I mean, Las Vegas is, I wonder if I can, there we go. I'm going to talk to the camera. We'll see if I can't do this. Las Vegas is run on tourism. Our entire town is based off of people coming here from elsewhere. And we're already seeing a downswing. The buffets are already shutting down. There's rumors of some of the casinos are going to shut down. There's casinos elsewhere, like MGM Grand owns properties all over the fucking globe. And they've shuttered a few of them in other states, but we're waiting for the big hit. No, it all makes sense, Glenn. It all makes sense now. Trust me. As soon as you told me you were you were a cook, a line cook, I presume you're not, you know, chef de cuisine or anything, any such thing. If you're a line cook, it all makes sense, bro. I get it. I have been I've never worked a kitchen, admittedly, but I have cooked every single meal for myself and others. I haven't eaten out in years and years and years. I make all my own food and that sort of thing. And I'm a devotee of, you know, Kitchen Confidential and, you know, all of the culture of the kitchen I adore. And I appreciate what you guys do big time. I get it. And so, yeah. Yeah, exactly. I love cookies. It's just, and I don't mean that in the baked item. You fucking line cooks are the best. So what we got from yeah, right. Yep, same here. It's a tourist place. Feel sorry for the hotel complex. Here it's called, wait for it. Oh, fuck me, Corona. Your hotel complex is called Corona. Oh, you're fucked. Of course you are fucked. Oh, man. Good luck with that, yeah, right. I suppose I could find where you are now, couldn't I? I'll just hang out. Are you yeah right? Are you yeah right? How about you? Yeah, it's anybody that welcome. Yeah, anybody who lives in a tourist destination right now, we are waiting for the hit. And luckily I live in one of the world's largest tourist destinations. And so we, you know, can absorb the hit a little easier than some of these smaller locales can. For those of you just joining and those of you who don't know, I live in the Las Vegas Valley, Las Vegas, Nevada, home of all the casinos and the debauchery. And so, yeah, we're just waiting for that. Yes, hold on. I'm doing it with my mind. That's how fucking advanced I am. Yeah, right. I'm doing it with my mind. For those of you who don't know, you could go over to YouTube and search for Kai's Things, Kais Things, and you can find the MLC live stream right now. So you can look at my beautiful face. You can look at me and wave to yeah right. I'm waving to yeah right. None of the rest of you. But yeah, are you sort of a seasonal destination? Yeah, right. Or are you guys? I mean, because you're coming into spring. I mean, if you're seasonal, this is going to suck even worse. But I mean, year rounds at least can sort of roll with the punch a little bit better. But let's see, what do we got? Corona Resort. I'm looking. Yeah, right. I'm gonna find you. Oh, for God's sakes, minus virus, because you can't search for anything with Corona without, every fucking virus article coming up. Okay. Okay. All right. I'm looking at the resort. Yeah. That's going to be that's going to be rough. I can only imagine. I mean, it's the seasonal guys are going to get just devastated by this. Are you I'm trying to pull some rates for you right now and see how bad it is actually. And it just, let's see if there's it was a good deals, especially given the area. And I mean, there's availabilities tomorrow. If I'm correct in my guess, if I'm correct in my research of what what facility, I wouldn't call it a resort, quite frankly, but what facility you're at and the location you're at, then having a booking available tomorrow at $70 prices is pretty indicative of the downturn you guys have already experienced. That's rough. I didn't even notice. Oh, look at Glenn fucking dropping. His internet's been sketchy anyway. So yeah, no, that's the thing. Most people don't understand that it's not going to be the virus that causes the problem. It's going to be the economic downturn as a result of the virus that's going to be the massive problem for everyone. And places like the UK and the US aren't equipped to deal with this sort of thing. Our economies are you guys are better equipped than us, admittedly, but I mean, after how many years of Tory interference at this point, you guys are pretty much fucked. I couldn't imagine. And I suppose it is what it is. We're going to have to ride this one out. I mean, I don't know if you saw your eternal enemies, France, have guaranteed that no employee will lose a cent over any virus restrictions. They're guaranteeing pay for their people at a socialized governmental level. So maybe take a page out of France's playbook on this one. Yeah. You were never European and you know it. That's yeah, right. Says, well, this is it. Now we're no longer European. You were never European. You guys fought them tooth. You know, that's just the way it was for the UK over at that point. You guys were. It's just the way it was. Welcome. We just have a small chat. We're cruising into the end of this, but if you want to see the end of the stream, you can go over to YouTube and see, search for Kai's Things and find the MLC live stream. You can catch the video portion of it as well. Exactly, yeah. you know, only when it suited you to be European were you guys European. And I get that. I mean, fuck. That's a solidly Western democracy trait, right? The hypocrisy, we want it both ways. That's the classic Western democracy territory. We want to have it both ways at all times, and America's pretty bad for that as well. But you guys shot yourself in the foot with that Brexit move. There's no way around that. And right in the middle of the wrong time to be doing it. As, you know, hey, let's undermine our economic system. Yeah, exactly. Talk about timing. You know, let's undermine our economic system and cause a whole bunch of speed bumps in our economy's road, and cue the pandemic in 3, 2, and we're fucked. And so, yeah, I just like us, I wish I could have more sympathy, but the fact of the matter is most of our countries that are really suffering from this did it to ourselves. And so, I mean, at least you're not, well, I suppose you are, right? Well, no, because you don't have the same set of circumstances. We're having to have the fight in this country about how our phone died. Like, died or battery died? I presume battery died. We're having to have the fight about, because when the douchebag Trump administration came in, he axed all of the systems that are designed and literally were in place to protect us from this sort of thing. The CDC Pandemic Response Unit, the National Security Council's Pandemic Response Team, the funding for the CDC, all of these sorts of things that were set up and put in place to protect our country from these sorts of things were completely undermined by our administration. Yeah, Trump, when he came in, literally, I'm a businessman. I don't like to pay thousands of people to be sitting there doing nothing all day. In May of 2018, oh Lord, Rich, oh Lord, I wish Mike were here. He'd enjoy this. Anybody want to chat? Anybody in chat want to do that? I don't know where to start. I mean, I'm aware of this conspiracy. I'm aware. I'm completely aware of this conspiracy. You haven't hit me from left field on this one. I'm surprised it's not the 5G conspiracy, quite frankly, that it's the cellular networks causing the problem. I've been seeing that one more and more. Yeah, we've been modeling and simulating epidemics and pandemics for quite some time, because that's what you do in order to prepare for it. We modeled space launches before we did the space launch. It's sort of the process. So, yeah. If you have any actual proof, I'm all for it, but see my rule number 2, no arguing without content. Oh, it says with content. Ooh, Jesus. I need to fix that. But if you... Conspiracy truths. Gematria Effect news on YouTube. Yeah, I just noticed it just now. Although I suppose it really works for rule number 2 anyway. No arguing with content. It's a little too authoritarian for my my taste, though. I was pushed up against it. I was literally stitching the video from Whole Foods together 3 minutes before we went live. I was right up against it. I wanted to go live at 8:30, but I got back too late. So I typed that out very quickly. But I'll fix that in my notes. You know what? I'm going to fix that in my notes right now before I forget about it. There we go. Now that I've noticed that, I shall fix that. Yeah, I don't go down the rabbit hole, just facts. Well, yeah, okay. I acknowledge your comment, Rich. I think no less of you for it. But I will also look at that. I don't ignore things. Rock on. Straight out of the kitchen for you, Glenn. I know you fuckers like stuff like that. I can YouTube and Podbean at the same time. Yeah, we're just gonna, we're gonna live stream the stuff up to YouTube. And no, Rich, no. You're not being rude, by all means. Look, this is not a conspiracy hub. My co-host, who is gone right now because his sim was hacked, literally live on air. It would be right there with you, and he'd love to get into it. I'm the other side of that aisle, so it brings a bit of balance to the show. Yeah, you don't... Well, I'm not... That's not, But controversial and third rail topics and things that are, not comfortable to talk about, Rich, is the mainstay of the channel. So, by all means, I disagree. That's how I will state that. But if you want to come back, we're coming up against it. Rock on. Yeah, it's not a bad setup, right? Like, I kind of got the shit going. Welcome back, Dylan. We're coming up against our 3-hour mark. So if you want to follow the channel, Rich, and you want to come back by on another live stream, I do another live stream / podcast called Proudly Radical. If you want to come by sometime and talk about some of this stuff and we can have the conversation, by all means. It's just, I don't have really enough time left in the stream, and, I'm going to have to get some food in me at some point. It's coming up against midnight. But you are not being rude in the least. You have been kind and considerate, and even saying that, nothing but love for you, man. Nothing but love. So, well, we have don't be Rick. Got another Rick, guys. Woo, woo. Except he's not a dick. It's so, you can't make me agree at all, but Rick came by like one of my Proudly Radical live streams in the afternoon, and he was respectful, he was sober, or at least relatively sober, but we had a good time. We actually had a good time with each other. And so, yeah, it's the late live streams with Rick. Oh man, we got 6 minutes left. Sherpa, call in now. Of course they can, but they require actual empirical evidence. So you better have some ready. Hi, the Sherpa. Oh.
Hi.
Do you have a pair of headphones?
Headphones I don't have right now.
Okay, well, we'll just deal with the echo. No big deal.
Oh. No big deal. I forgot the headphone today. No headphone today.
It is what it is. I want the conversation more than I care about the audio. So we only have 5 minutes left on this live stream, but it's you. It's so you are actually like ethnically Sherpa or
Yeah.
Wow, that's
the title Sherpa you made. Yeah, I'm ethnically Sherpa.
Rock on. So
what do you know?
What does that entail? Tell me something about from your daily life.
Yeah, it's going. Our places here in Kathmandu, it's not that worse situation healthily, but the environment and mentally and everything are like getting kind of like sick.
Ooh.
And our government just decided that until 30th of April, there is no any on-arrival visa for tourists, and all the peak and including mountains, Mount Everest are closed for short time. And yeah, these things are happening, and things are getting short, like mask. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that's any place that relies on tourists is being hit pretty hard by all of this.
Yeah, but yeah, no, till the day, no one is found corona corona positive. We all are negative.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So, what's it like living in Nepal? I mean, I know that's a fairly vague question, but I mean, what's it like? Yeah, you're getting admiration from chat, by the way.
What do you mean?
Well, it's
yeah.
Just dealing with the echo a little bit. So yeah, are you going to? How is the economic response to this going to be? Are you okay with the lack of tourists? Is the city and the culture going to handle that well?
Definitely, it's affecting so badly. Yeah, definitely. All the hospitalities now there is no guest, not much tourists.
I have to.
Yeah, definitely. Economically, it's going in negative way, definitely.
Okay, so you broke up pretty badly there, but we caught you at the end at least. So yeah, what are your people going to fall back on if they don't have the tourists coming there? Nope, dropped. I think dropped. Oh, Sherpa, you dropped. Please, the Sherpa, follow me. Follow my channel, and that way you get the notification when we're on again. And I'd love to talk to you further. Yeah, definitely an interesting perspective from Nepal, Kathmandu. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't do Facebook, Rich. Sorry, I just don't do Facebook. But like I said, follow me, and we can continue this another time. And Joy Talks, welcome back. Interesting. So it looks like something has maintained the connection, even though, all right, well, yeah. All right, folks. Well, it is 1 minute until the end of this stream. And let's see. Oh, freaking Podbean. What are you going to do? It is 1 minute till the end, 30 seconds till the end of the stream. It has been a great episode, a great session. Lots of engagement from the community. Thank you. Thank you so much. You can always catch the Misery Likes Company live stream Sundays, Sunday evening. It's, 8:30 to 9:30 Pacific Standard Time for America, depending on when I decide to go live. But follow the channel. You'll get a notification. Look for my solo episodes, Proudly Radical. You can find all of my stuff at kaisthings.com. And, yeah, I hope you're as well as you can be.